Hello, Rob. Ah. Right, let me start admitting people.
Hello.
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 Hi.
Hi, Jeff.
Hello, Viv.
Hello, Juliet.
Hello. Good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Have we all got long hair?
Yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah.
Have I got the right? Are you? What time is it, John? I thought it was 2:30.
It is 2:30, but
Oh, good.
we have to open up early so that people can
Oh,
Have a cup of tea.
have a cup of tea,
Right.
find a seat,
Okay.
find a computer, you know.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we won't
well,
actually.
I'm really grateful because yes, I thought it was 2:30. As you can see, I haven't dried my hair. I've been painting. Hello, Sue. Hello.
Yeah.
Been painting. I'm doing a lot of painting in my mother's house at the moment, and so I've just jumped in the shower. So look, excuse me for a few minutes while I just put some makeup on or something. Coming.
You've got 20 minutes, Viv.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Hello, Dennis.
Hello. Hi, John.
Good to hear you.
I'm just trying to find my hearing aids.
Oh,
I've read it.
right.
That's the thing. Usually you. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah. Thanks for all the information. It was quite good.
Good.
Yeah. I'm glad you found a treasure. That sounds.
Yes.
Yeah,
So am I.
Yeah. They're not here, are they? Oh God, I'll put them ready.
Dennis, he lives up the road to me in some alms houses, very similar to those in style in Bedworth, but we're put in Sutton Junior by Sir William Roberts Trust. And I can virtually see them from my window, but I've also been made his acquaintance through some other local interests. So that's quite a coincidence, really.
It's good, really, Linda, because it means when we do eventually hand over, it's not too difficult for, assuming lockdown has eased, you'll be able to, make contact with him, and I'm sure it'll work really well. Yeah.
He seems a very pleasant young man, actually.
Yes, he is. Yes,
Yeah.
I spoke to him for about half an hour the other day, and very pleasant indeed. And he was taught by Sheila Wolfe.
Which we talked about coincidence. You said that was obviously another coincidence, because of course I was at school with Sheila.
Yeah. And Sheila remembers him very well. as being a very intelligent young man. Yeah. So it's a small world, really.
Excuse me. What do you want in there? Come on. Wait. Come out.
Hi, John.
Go down there. Get out.
That sounded a rather anguished squeal from somewhere, Linda.
It was I've got a litter of puppies.
Oh, right.
And the mother was trying to get herself shut in another room out the way of them.
Oh,
which I
right.
didn't want that to happen, obviously.
There's one just come in behind you.
Yeah, they're just, one shut up, but the other two are wandering around. I'll shut Victor up. I'll have to leave Tiptoe out because of the pups. Come on, mate. You get in there. You don't stop wandering. Oh.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Susan. Hi.
Each time you use Zoom, you find different things to learn about, don't you?
I only use it. I've never hosted a meeting on it. This is my one of 8 meetings I have scheduled between last Sunday lunchtime and tomorrow afternoon. But I've not hosted a meeting. I've only been a guest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm upstairs. Linda has been at a Zoom synod meeting downstairs since about 10:30 this morning. They had a break for lunch, but we can't get out of this wanting to have meetings somehow, can we?
No. So, how long have you got the meeting scheduled for, John? Hour and a half?
I've got the meeting scheduled to start at 2:30, and then I think I've allowed 2 hours, so that should be plenty of time. I think it's 2.5 hours altogether from 2.
Well, I timed myself with my report, and providing I don't get too many questions to answer, which I don't think I will.
No,
it's about 15 minutes.
That's fine, Linda. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. That's Peter Luce waiting to come in.
Hello, everyone. I can see you. Can you see me?
No.
Hello, Peter.
I missed Miss Joy. I missed the bit where it says join with video.
Well, are you on an iPad, Joy?
No, I don't use an iPad.
Okay. So you can do that on your iPad.
Yeah, no, I'll go and get some. No, that's not it.
There's usually a little video icon like the Zoom icon at the top. Can you not do that? I don't know.
We can ask the host to ask you to start video, John. If you click on participants and you scroll down.
Oh, I'm there. I'm with you. Oh, I've just lost it again.
If you
Yeah, thank you. Did you see putting my badges on?
Did you see, John, that there are some chats from Germany?
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
From Bob. Hello, Bob. Greetings from Solingen, Germany, from Bob Muscat, one of our 4 German members. Good to have you with us. And Marlena as well, from Atlanta, Georgia.
So Marlena's on mute at the moment.
Oh.
So
I just took that off.
John, if you go to participants at the top, click on it and scroll down on it, each individual person, you can click on them and either ask them to start video or unmute, and it will send them a message up on their screen. They might be aware, but they might, I don't know. They might be choosing not to put the sound on just yet or the video just yet.
Yeah. So everybody presumably can hear me, can they, do you think?
Yeah, we can hear you, see you.
But not everybody Sylvia Everett, I've got you here down as muted. Is that, do you want me to unmute you, or can you unmute yourself?
Just to
Oh,
save unwanted interruptions.
Idle chit chat.
Yes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's lovely.
I only muted because it's absolutely chucking it down and I'm in the conservatory and it sounds horrible on the roof.
Oh, well.
I think it's just coming over here. It's over the battlefield.
Right.
And we have rain too.
Oh, right.
That's reassuring for us.
Yeah.
So I think Dennis can hear us, but we can't see him.
No, Dennis is on his iPhone, I think. So I'm not sure whether he will be able to.
Yeah, I'm on my mobile. Yeah.
You're on your mobile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would still be able to see us if you wanted to, but it will be very little. It'll be very small.
Only if if you just put speaker view on, he would just hear whoever was speaking at that time, wouldn't he, Alicia? If you didn't put gallery view on.
Yes, that's right. There'd just be like 5 pictures at the top of the screen, and then you can scroll through them if you want to see the people.
Yeah.
Sounds as if I know what I'm doing. Fatal, that, isn't it?
So Sylvia's on, which we know. Robert is on mute and no video. Viv's doing a makeup.
Yes.
Have you got me?
She's
No,
in the green room.
On your video.
Mary.
I can't see where to start the video this time.
So John.
Oh, I can.
Yeah.
Right.
Hello. Hello, Mary.
You're on a different screen. Oh, let's get more on.
Hello, David.
Hello.
Good to see you. Is Marie with you?
No.
No.
Just me.
Just you. That's all right. I'm glad that you could be there. Peter Luce, are you coming on with a picture or just audio?
I think just audio, John.
Okay, Peter, that's fine. Good to have you here.
And you?
I've actually just posted a newsletter to your brother in Bedworth.
Oh, lovely. He'll be pleased about that. Yes.
It's so much easier, isn't it, to email them, but obviously they have to be posted out as well.
Yes. Oh no, he loves getting it.
Yes. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Haven't seen Linda and Juliet for ages, and Sue. It's good to see you as well, Sue, the other Sue. I'm warning you now that there's been a bit of a problem with my laptop, so if I suddenly go mute, you'll have to let me know. I can't do anything about it other than come back in, but I don't know what it is, whether it's my laptop or what. But it happens, doesn't it, Alicia?
Yeah, it's okay. I'll do that, Mary.
So if that happens, John, you'll have to let me back in if it's convenient. I won't do it unless it's a convenient moment.
No, that's fine.
Mary, I'm so pleased you're there. You and I missed that one before, didn't we? We did. Yes. Where are you?
I'm just throwing it down there.
Rob Everett.
She's an empty chair at the moment, Mary. She's obviously gone to put the kettle on, I would think. Or
Rob Everett.
a glass, of course.
Hello, Rob.
Yeah, I managed it.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, we can't see you.
You can't. Oh, hang on. Let me see.
Bottom left.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh, there he is.
Hey.
It's the first time I've ever actually used one of these.
Oh, yes.
The problems I'm having isn't with Zoom, it's with the laptop I'm in the Heritage Centre.
Oh, I thought I recognised that staircase.
I've got a few things to do out and about, and I've got nowhere convenient at home anyway. The best room for it, my broadband doesn't reach properly. It's dropping out. So I thought it'd be easier here.
Yeah, that's lovely. It's a nice light room.
Yeah.
And it's good to see the Heritage Centre in use, Rob.
Yeah.
That's
You
good.
link us with our other meetings, or if we're so often there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nice to have that link, Rob.
It is.
Oh.
2 people enter the, let's see who they are. Oh, yes, right. Shoshana and Sheila.
So we're on 3 screens now.
Wow. Got 2.
Hello.
Bonus there.
Hi, Linda. Can you see my picture of John Lennon in the background?
Yes,
yes.
I can see you've still got your cap on as well.
What do you think of it, Alicia? What do you think of that painting?
Did you do it?
Oh, you're joking. No. A very good friend of mine gave it to me as a birthday present.
Okay. Not David Hodgkinson.
Sorry?
Not David Hodgkinson.
It's John Lennon.
No,
Yeah.
who painted it?
No, it was the painter David Hodgkinson.
No, it was his friend who painted it, Alicia.
Sorry, I just got a problem with the acoustics.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a friend, Inga. She's a very close friend, and we've been friends for years and years and years. Used to be my employer, and I think it was one of my birthdays with a 0. And she also did this one of David Bowie. You probably can't see that. That's
Yeah,
the best.
I can.
That is the best image I've ever seen of David Bowie.
What
Anyway,
you really need is one of Alicia's prints of the new 2019 portrait of George Eliot to make the 3 up.
Yeah, look at this.
Oh yeah, that's fab.
Fab. All the gear.
No idea.
So I'm disappearing now, having made my impression.
I was trying to get one of the portraits up.
Your dreams.
But
Hello, Elaine.
Hello. I don't know why you can't see me.
There's something you.
Bottom left, start video.
Oh, I can't keep doing that.
Yeah. Bottom left, Elaine.
Yeah.
unless you're on an iPad, then it's top right, unfortunately.
Oh, right, yeah.
There we are.
Ah, oh,
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. Got it. It's taking me ages to get
Hello,
it.
hello.
I'm used to just clicking and everything happens. I've had to go in through my whole Zoom account.
Good to see you, Elaine.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Joy.
Hello.
Right then.
Whereabouts are you, Alicia? Are you in your new studio?
Yes, I am.
It looks lovely.
Surrounded by little snippets of the art class that I teach.
Right.
I'm sitting in the corner next to the radiator. It's the warmest spot, although it's quite hot. Yeah, I feel like I've lived in here now. Well, not all year, because it took most of last year to make it, but certainly since the summer, I think, or maybe the autumn, I've run most of my art classes in here now.
Yeah.
So it's a bit weird not being the host, because I'm trying to sort of do things and I can't do them.
But less nerve-wracking.
Well, yeah.
Well, you're used to it. It's. I'm sure I will get more used to it.
Yeah. It's very nice to see everybody, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is.
It's maybe somebody else knows, but I can only get nine faces on one screen, and there's obviously a lot more of us in now. So to see everybody.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
15.
I've got 15.
You on an
I don't
iPad,
have to get any
Alicia?
more.
Yeah.
I've got 4, 8, 12, 16 on a screen.
Right.
But if you just swipe left or right, you'll get the other screens, won't you?
Yeah, I must have to go into my settings and see if I can play with that somewhere. Not today.
Hello, Karen.
Hello.
Ooh, hello,
Good,
Karen.
good that you're joining us.
Yeah.
Yep. Are you sticking with the white K on the? Oh,
No, here I am.
Is it real?
hello.
Hi, Karen.
No. Somebody's telephoning.
Right. Yes. I think. Is that Jill on the phone?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. That's Jill. So Jill Bridgewater,
Hello, Jill.
who was our
Hello.
Oh,
was our treasurer for many years, and Jill is using the phone. I don't think I realised you could use the phone, but you can, of course.
brilliant.
And
Yes.
there's a number you've dialed, presumably, Jill, and then you just
Yeah.
dialed in the reference numbers that I gave you that everybody needed to join in.
That's right. Yes. I
Right.
use the 0330 number
Yeah.
for Zoom because we use two different ones at church, but that's the main one. So I thought, well, I'll try the main one.
Right.
Lovely to hear you, Jill, even if we can't see you.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's
Yeah.
lovely to know that you're well.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Hello,
you,
Pam.
whoever that is.
Pam Waite has just joined us.
Hello, Pam.
Oh, right.
Hello, Pam.
Yeah.
Hello, Pam.
Hi, Pam.
Thank you,
That's
Pam,
good.
for your timely reminder about it being Shakespeare Week.
Oh. Shakespeare Week.
The 21st, I think it is.
Why is it Shakespeare Week?
Oh, right.
It's his birthday.
15th.
Oh, no, that's not till April, is it?
April.
That's not till April. Yeah.
No.
Shakespeare Week every week.
Hello, Drew.
We've got here now. There we go.
Right. Well, we've got 24 so far, which is not bad. I think I've got 30 people. So whether one or two are struggling, or if maybe I had a better offer, who knows?
That's good.
Watching the rugby.
It could be, yes.
Oh, I better put that on that end. I'm prepared. Low for laptop.
Drew. Hi. Hello.
Now Beverly is just waiting in the waiting room. We'll admit her, important person.
I think we'd better.
I think we're better. Yes, indeed.
VP.
Hello, Bev.
Hello. Good morning.
Oh,
I'm going to keep my camera going. Hi. I'm not feeling that well this morning. I'm just going to leave my camera off, but I'm here.
As long as you can hear us and we can hear you.
Yes, awesome. Thank you.
It's good to have you. I mean, this is really the wonderful thing about Zoom, isn't it? You know, that that 2 or 3 people from America can join in, and it would have been a major effort and very expensive to actually come in person to the AGM. So it does have its plus sides, doesn't it? This
Oh yes, I appreciate it.
use of Zoom, and I think probably when the pandemic is over, I think people will still continue to use Zoom, don't you? There'll be some occasions where we can say, well, we can reach more of our members.
Yeah.
You know, if we do that, and if speakers are happy to be recorded, it means we've got a good record of it as well. Right, that's Val coming in.
And if you don't have room on your website to host recordings, I'm happy to put it on the George Eliot Scholars. I have a new site, and people are volunteering their conference presentations from all over the world. So
yeah, that's good. Could be on both. I think we have got
put it on
room.
both. Yeah.
But yeah, that's good.
Oh, hang on. Here I am.
Hello,
Valerie. Hello,
Valerie.
everybody. Yeah,
Harry.
here I am. Here I am. Yep.
Hello,
Hey,
Valerie.
David. Hi. Can't see Dennis.
Lovely to see you.
Yes, ditto, ditto, ditto.
Hopefully before too long,
Oh,
we'll see you here.
But Beverly, there's a chat just come up that asks you to, it's from Dr. Rylett from Marlena Ward.
Oh, yes.
Dr. Rylett, could you share your new website
I see.
URL
Okay,
with
thank
us
you. I
today?
hadn't noticed. Yep, absolutely.
I think it's on the newsletter actually, Beverly, isn't it?
That's okay. I'll add it here too.
Yeah.
Hello, Valerie.
Thanks for including that, John.
hi.
How are things in Geneva, Valerie?
Oh, well, shockingly slow. I don't reckon. I mean, I have to say, we haven't been too badly off at all, ever. So we've never had, the restrictions that you've had, or, worse that they've had in France and Italy. The Swiss sort of rely on everybody being responsible. So, we're not supposed to meet up more than 5 people together, but it's doable. But what's shocking at the moment is the rollout or the not rollout of vaccines. It's not just Switzerland. I think the whole of the EU has run out. How is it possible? I'm not going to go on too much about it because you'll think the Swiss are not as efficient as normal. But it's just bizarre. But spring's on its way. The daffodils are out, the crocuses are out, the birds are singing. Yes, it could be much, much worse, but heaven knows when I'll be able to get back. But yeah,
no.
There are worse places to be confined.
Well, there are, aren't there? Yes. Yes. Well, it is after 2:30, and there are 27 of us here. So I think we should start, if everybody's in agreement with that.
Yeah.
And welcome, really. Welcome to everybody. Oh, Linda, what a glutton for punishment. She's been in this synod meeting downstairs on Zoom since 10:30, and now she's joining us here.
Wow.
It's very noble of her, isn't it, really?
Yes, saintly.
Hello, Linda.
Oh.
Oh, she's just connecting. Right. The first item on the agenda is welcome and apologies. So a welcome to all of you. And apologies. I've had apologies from John Rignall, who was hoping to come, but he wasn't sure whether he'd be back in time to join us. And from Brian Titten, who normally, of course, comes to pretty well everything, but doesn't have a computer, so can't join us. And Jennifer Smith, who again is a regular attender, particularly at AGMs. I remember last year she was quite vocal with her opinions. And again, Jennifer doesn't have a computer either. So apologies from those 3. I don't know whether anybody has any other apologies to pass on.
My John is not coming today.
Is he not?
The first time in our whole married life he's ill, and I can't decide whether he's like how the rest of us feel every day or whether he really is at death's door. But he had a hernia repair done a couple of days back, and so I don't think he'll be coming downstairs. But if he does, he does.
Well,
Give our best, please.
yes, give him our best wishes.
Yeah.
Telling me damn well needs to get better soon, Sue, because he's a new committee member.
Oh, we've got at 8 o'clock for a cereal tasting thing with all our grandchildren, so I don't think it'll be best by then.
Right. Okay. So that's well.
John?
Yes.
John, it's Jill. I was just going to say that you mentioned 3 people who said they hadn't got computers. You could always tell them they can do what I do.
Yeah.
At least you can hear,
Yes, indeed.
even if you can't see.
Yes. Yes.
So you could let them know.
I will,
and
Jill,
give them the Zoom phone number,
Yeah,
the 0330
absolutely.
number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that.
I'll shut up now.
No, that's a useful comment, because the next 4 meetings are all going to be Zoom, and so they might feel that they can take part even if they haven't got a computer. Yeah.
Yes. They'll just need the ID and the passcode, like I asked you.
Yes.
For them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll shut up now.
Right. So the chairman's report. I mean, it will be shorter, you'll be delighted to know, than in earlier years. But what a year it's been. And my first strong reminder of the last year comes from thinking back to the AGM, which was exactly a year ago today. And it was held at the Coton Heritage Centre, of course, as usual. And there were about a dozen fewer people there than in earlier years. And I remember we talked at the time and wondered whether people were put off by the apparent arrival and spread of COVID. And I mean, a year ago, we were all very innocent about it, weren't we? But people were already, I think, beginning to feel that there was a strange unease everywhere. But I also remember May Green and Christine Temple arriving and sitting next to each other, always very loyal members of the fellowship, attended pretty well everything. And then I remembered that 3 weeks later, Christine Temple was dead. And that came as a real shock to all of us, I think, that this is somebody we knew who had been carried off by COVID. And by then, of course, we were in lockdown, and in fact, the Coton Centre closed 3 days after our AGM, and apart from odd forays when we were allowed to with Slimmer's World and 1 or 2 small groups, we've been closed ever since. It's, let me just admit this one. There we are, Christine. It's been a rather lonely and sad looking building ever since, although I go in 2 or 3 times a week to check that all is okay. And Rob Everett is actually joining us from the Heritage Centre, which is excellent. But it's so much been part of our home for the fellowship in recent years. It'll be lovely eventually to get back to it. And we've all experienced the sadness of lonely funerals as well, I think, this year. Because I noted in the list of apologies for last year's AGM, Mavis Addison sent her apologies. And Mavis had been a keen member for many, many years. But by last March, she was in a care home. And she was often visited there by May Green and Christine Temple, who had both cleared her house for her. And by the end of the year, Mavis too was dead, and COVID appeared on both their death certificates. And there have been others, of course, both within the fellowship, but elsewhere too. And I guess that everyone here today has known someone who's no longer with us as a result of COVID. So our planned year of events, which I was pleased with because it was a strong and interesting program, and it followed on. It's always a bit difficult to follow on a really successful year, but the bicentenary year was so successful that I was pleased that last year seemed to be shaping up to be a good year. But of course, it all came to a grinding halt with the coming of lockdown. But we did manage to hold 3 events. There was the wreath laying in Nuneaton at the end of June. It was a very much reduced event, and we were in two minds whether to cancel it altogether. But about 17 of us, very socially distanced, gathered near the obelisk. Most years I'm saying, please get closer, please huddle together. And of course, we couldn't do that. In fact, we may well have been breaking the law by having as many as 17 gathered in one place, but we were okay. And Sheila, who is here today, laid a wreath for the fellowship, and Michael Harris also laid a wreath in memory of members and friends of the fellowship who had died that year. And they included, of course, his wife, who had been, Ruth, had been a very dear and precious member of the fellowship and the vice president as well. And then Joy laid a wreath that incorporated some plants that had been used the previous November at Highgate Cemetery. So it was a much shorter event, and we couldn't have tea and cake at the museum, but I'm glad we did it. It was the first event we'd really been able to try and do something with, and it was as successful as it could have been, I think, in the circumstances. And Sheila came up trumps with a delightful talk about how George Eliot's characters, or some of them from Middlemarch particularly, would have responded to the pandemic. That was lovely, really, Sheila. So thank you on our behalf once again for that presentation. It lifted all our spirits, I think, and I did put it into a subsequent newsletter, so you can always find it again. And then we decided that we would jump into the stormy water called Zoom, and we took out a license, and we were able to actually hold our annual lecture from Gail Marshall, which was terrific. And Gail is a good friend of the fellowship. I think she's one of the academics who holds us in high esteem, which is lovely. And there were about 40 people who, again, from all over the world, who listened and took part in that lecture. And I think that John Rignall has already collared Gail, and she will have provided him with the text so that her lecture will be in the next review, which will come out in about July, August time. But you can already take part in it or see it if you want to go to the website, and there's a YouTube link to it, because these things are or can be recorded. Well, then the next thing that we had really looked forward to was the annual birthday luncheon, and we'd planned it and we'd sorted menus, and Mary had done a lot of work negotiating there with Western Hall Hotel, and they seem to have got it all sorted for social distancing and bubbles and so on. But then, of course, the second lockdown came, and we just had to cancel it. But again, we managed to do something to celebrate George Eliot's birthday, 201st birthday. And so we used Zoom again, and we had a toast to George on that Sunday afternoon of the 22nd of November. And Jonathan Ouvry, our president, took part. And our original guest speaker, Leslie Smith, who had so enlivened the bicentenary year, also enlivened that afternoon with a delightful little talk about her newfound love of George Eliot, really. And earlier we had laid a chaplet at the statue in Nuneaton, and a floral tribute at the statue outside the George Eliot Hospital. So although it wasn't a three-course meal, we were able to toast George Eliot and listen to Leslie and Jonathan, and at least we recognized the birthday. So that was good. And we held some council meetings during the parts of the year when we could meet. But to some extent, apart from those outward appearances, we might have seemed to be in hibernation, but we weren't really. Last year did produce 4 newsletters. The last 3, as a new venture, we sent out by email to all our members who are available via email. Now, in in any cross section of society now, I don't know what percentage have access to email and the internet, but within the fellowship's 400-ish members, there are 80 of them who don't have emails, or at least if they do, there are 80 of them who haven't revealed to me what their email is. And so one of the things we do have to bear in mind as a fellowship is that we still have to send out by post material to people who we can't access by email. And of course, there are financial implications to that. On the other hand, we will be able to send out more emailable newsletters and notes because it's pretty well free. It's just somebody writing the damn thing and pressing send, you know, and making sure they go to everybody. So I think on the whole, it's a better arrangement. It means that the money we save on not having to email, not having to post every newsletter to everyone, means that we can do more frequent email newsletters and have printed a smaller number, obviously, but afford to post them to our members who still need that service. But it's something we keep under review, obviously, all the time. So those last three went by email, and already this year we've had 2 newsletters, and I'm hoping that will allow us to keep in touch more. And of course, this idea of using Zoom does mean that we can actually see each other. It might be across a screen, but it's a considerable advance, I think. Whilst talking about the non-emailable members, about 60 of them are in the UK, and about 20 of them in America. There are 1 or 2 elsewhere in the world, but you know, that's negligible, really. But postage rates abroad, especially abroad, and especially for packages, have rocketed. So I think that's something we'll need to look at, certainly with a view to the charges that we put onto the website. But that will be for our new council to think about. Now, Juliet had stepped down at the last AGM, and so I've endeavoured, not terribly successfully, to keep up to Juliet's rigorous standards, but we're getting there, and we hope that a new membership secretary might emerge from the new council, but that's not to put any pressure on anybody at this stage. So I've more or less coped, but what the other thing really of importance to note during the pandemic year is that we now have a new website, and it is excellent. I'm delighted with it. They're pretty demanding things, though, I'm discovering, you know, that you have to keep feeding the damn things because otherwise people stop looking at them. And so any contributions are obviously always welcome. But we have already got more people looking at it. We've got more information on it, and I think it's altogether more relevant and topical and interesting than the earlier website. And it's certainly much more user friendly for mobile phones and tablets and so on. And Alison, who designed it for us, is absolutely on top of the game where that's concerned. And it is also proving, well, it will prove to be useful in that we can do membership renewals via the website. Now, I would think that there's a lot of renewals in January, obviously, but people can join at any time of the year because the computer, the website will track when they join and then just send out a reminder a year later. But there have been some members who've had problems accessing the members area, and that is always a problem because people forget their passwords. But there have been a few other problems, and I don't think it's applying to anybody who's here this afternoon, but there are people who've had problems, and I am trying gradually to resolve them, and I apologize for that. But long term, I think this is going to be the way forward because the computer really does the job for you, you know. I don't have to send out reminders, or a membership secretary doesn't have to send out reminders, so long as the members are online. And of course, increasingly, people who are joining now do have access to computers, though not everybody does. There was one chap who joined last year who doesn't have a computer. But on the whole, you know, the further on we go, the more likely it is that most of our members will have internet access, and we can contact them very easily, very quickly, and really very cheaply. So that's good. It's good for the general well-being and success of the fellowship, I think, that we can get in touch with our members quickly. So hopefully those problems with the website will be resolved. It's largely me at fault because I'm a rather slow learner where modern technology is concerned. And Alison has given me all sorts of tutorials, which I have yet to tackle. You know, they're in the list of things to do. But I'm sure we can resolve it. And Beverly, of course, over in Nebraska is doing amazing work. It's worth recording that for this last year of success. It's not the fellowships, it's Beverly's, but Beverly is happy to work with us, and we're delighted to work with her. And of course,
very lucky to work with you guys. Thank you.
well, we're delighted that as a vice president now, we have Beverly's words of wisdom and advice to consider, and she will be a really helpful link, I think, in the States. Linda Robertson is. Have you joined us, Linda?
I have.
Yes. Hello, Linda. Linda has done marvelous work at looking after the American membership for us, and people pay their checks to her, and then she sends one check or two checks a year to us. But quite a few people, I think you've probably noticed, Linda, are sort of bypassing you and are just renewing through the website. Whether that will make you redundant, I don't know, but at least it gives an alternate opportunity for people to join. But as they do join, I'm trying to remember to notify you and to notify them that you are there, and that you can be paid if that's what they prefer. So that's really good, because there are a huge number of George Eliot enthusiasts in the States, and we could do with making more contact with more of them, and broadening the appeal of George Eliot and the George Eliot Fellowship generally. So a thank you really to all council members. We have become very depleted in numbers, but that will be resolved today. And to our vice presidents and our members for their continuing support. I haven't worked out exactly the figures of renewals, and I've had a couple of people who've said, really, because of old age and infirmity, they want to stop being members. But on the whole, people are renewing, and it's interesting that we've had, in the last year, we've had 10 new members in the UK and 10 new members in the USA. And that is pretty well entirely since we launched the new website. So the new website is helping to generate new members, which is really very good. Now, within the Fellowship Council at the moment, Linda, who helped with the treasurer's job with Jill for 2 or 3 years, and has been treasurer for this year, wishes to step down. She has said that she will help see us through into the new regime of Andrew Copson. Is Andrew here? No, he did. He did book a place, but Andrew lives in Sutton Cheney, which is just up the road really from Linda. He has. He's a lot younger than most of us, which is must be marvelous to be 40 again. Wouldn't it be lovely? Anyway, he I think is quite keen to take on the job. He was born in Nuneaton, and then went to King Henry's, where his favourite teacher was Sheila Wolfe, and then was in London for some time, but has now returned to this part of the world and is keen to get involved in a few things. And he's very much involved in the British Humanist Movement Association, which it makes his love of George Eliot understandable, I think. So Linda is reassessing her priorities in life and has lots of other commitments, and so wishes to step down as treasurer. And we thank you, Linda, for your contribution. At some stage, we'll perhaps be able to have a sort of a more formal presentation of gifts or thank yous when we next meet again. But Linda has managed to get us sorted as far as online banking is concerned, and that is going to be very helpful indeed. Already is actually, and so thank you, Linda, for what you have done during your time with the fellowship, and particularly this last year as treasurer. And then Viv Wood has been the vice chair for I don't know how many years, 12 or 13, I think it must be, Viv, and has been a fantastic supporter and inspiration really of the fellowship. Much of the creativity that the fellowship has shown in recent years has been inspired, I think, by Viv's ability to look at novels and to see ways in which they can be compressed and edited and loved by audiences who then come to see them as adaptations for the stage. It was an extraordinary era, really, where Viv, it was circumstances that were advantageous to us, but Viv was at Keggs, teaching English, loving George Eliot, and Simon Winterman happened to be around and happened to be teaching as well at Keggs. And there were so many wonderful creative things that Viv has been responsible for, and that moved on then to the trip to Edinburgh and her adaptation. You know, to get Felix Holt into an hour is a pretty powerful example of your skills of compression, and Viv managed it. And then in 2019, of course, there was Mr. Gilfield's Love Story, which was just wonderful to see her presentation of that in the grounds of Arbury. But I mean, those are just some of the things, and Viv has done so much to help us, to support us, always enthusiastic and welcoming, and we will miss her very much indeed. But things move on. Viv is moving, is already in Somerset, but is moving permanently down there to be nearer her family. And she, as she constantly reminds me, she's not stopping being a member of the George Eliot Fellowship, and she will come back to meetings in the way that people do. Most of our weekends or longer meetings, people come up from London or from Norwich or from Geneva. So Viv will be Viv's car knows its way now from Somerset back to Nuneaton, and we will continue to see her. So thank you to everybody, and thank you to those of you who have been participants in so many of the events, not just last year, because that was a bit of an aberration, but as general supporters of the work of the fellowship. So that, I think, concludes my report. Is there anything anybody wishes to ask me or comment before I ask Linda to give her treasurer's report?
I would like to say something, please, John, if I may.
Yes, certainly do.
You said to us, well, things have happened despite lockdown. But I'm sure everyone knows it's really John who has kept everything going. All the newsletters were written by him. All the emails, etc. And of course, he's the person who's keeping the wonderful new website up to date. So I think a huge debt of gratitude we have to you, John, for actually keeping us going during the last year. You're just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. That's very kind of you. But it wouldn't be possible without knowing that people were behind me. The council has been terrific in its support of what we do. But, you know, we all love George Eliot. She's worth it, isn't she, really?
John, I've just got one little. It's Bob.
Yes, Bob.
I've just got one little comment on the minutes.
Yes.
There was one little sentence. Bob Muscat, funded by us, produced a virtual tour of Weimar in 1854. Yeah. Now, as I always say, it was not solely a Bob Muscat production. Yeah, it was 6 to 7 months, quite hard collaboration involving myself, Mara, and Karl-Heinz Mauermann, and the Orange Planet Theatre.
Right.
I'd just like to stress that it's not Bob Muscat's website. You know, it's sort of become standard formula. You know,
yes.
I always try to correct it, but I think it's very, very important. It was a real, you know, intensive long-term cooperation.
Thing.
I'm
Yes.
always a little bit embarrassed when people refer to it as my website or my blog.
No.
Perhaps you could put that in the protocol for 2021.
I will do, Bob. Yes.
I'll send it to you by email, and you can just put it as a sentence.
Yeah, that's fine. No, thank you for that, Bob. I was conscious that there were others involved.
Yeah, but
I think probably I mentioned you because you're a member, but actually the Mauman,
so is Mara,
are also members. So yes, yeah, these things are never one-off. One person, are they? There's always a band of people supporting and going along with whatever initiative it is. Yes, thank you for that, Bob. Anybody else wish to comment before we move on to Linda? No. Okay, so Linda, then I said explained in the background notes that these aren't yet audited, but Linda will explain where we are and what we propose to do. All right, Linda.
Right, thank you. But there is one point I need to clear up, John. In your background and what you've just said, it reads ambiguously. I have only resigned as a treasurer and expressed my willingness to be re-elected as a council member today. We have to re-elect them all, everybody. It's a role that I particularly find fulfilling and enjoyable, and that I've had great pleasure in over a number of years, especially the 2019 bicentenary. We will all miss Viv. That goes without saying. Viv has been a great presence on the council, and I would personally like to say I will miss Viv. But I am looking forward to embracing the opportunity of working with an extended council, all of whom I know. Andrew, as you've said, lives up the road to me, and we have found that we do have an interest in more local matters. We will be discussing links with the Northwest Treasurer at North Warwickshire Tourism, and I was fortunate to be involved with that right from the start. And I have had a couple of other really good instances, well, lots of nice instances with them. So I do hope I will get re-elected back onto the council. Anyway, let's move on to the income and expenditure. I'll go through the figures first, because I think then if we get them out of the way, that's always a headache for people. So if we look at donations and presents that came in, it's £936 and £800 went out almost. Most of that outgoing and coming in was for donations that were made towards the GEF Preservation Trust. That's the Heritage Centre that I'm also a trustee on. I think the Japanese membership contributed over £700 of that on their own. So that was lovely. But we're trying to make that a completely separate issue now. As where you've got postage, you've got a queue in there for some reason, and you should have £1,021. That is postage generally for, I think, the review expenses as well as the newsletters. But as John said, those newsletters do come to an amount of money. It's almost £1. I think it's 85 pence for a first class stamp these days, which is a lot of money. But a lot of those members, certainly the ones that live in England or in the UK, I think it's probably been a bit of a lifeline to them throughout this pandemic. And so the costs there are quite high, and a lot of them are life members, so they don't actually pay anything in. But I think they've contributed a lot over the term of their lifetime membership, whether or not they're still paying now. And yeah, we should be looking at it, but it's not a massive saving that we could make. The insurance is what it is. The SA prize is what it is. Then if we move down to from charitable events and cost of charitable events, you'll see that other than the review, the expenses pretty well match. That's because people pre-booked tickets and then had to have the money refunded. But quite a few of them were generous enough to say, don't refund the ticket money, put it into George Eliot funds. And for that, I'd like to say thank you, because I know some of those people are here. The review is expensive, but I think it's worth the money. I think people like it in book form, and I think it would be sad to put it in email form only, but if people wanted it electronically, I'm sure that could be provided, especially now that we have the wonderful website of Beverly Ryletts. So, you know, that's just an expense that we run with. The Silas Marner is put in as donations because at the time when that went in, we didn't quite have the minutes in place to put it in as book sales. We rectified that situation, so will now go into book sales, I'm assuming, next year. You will see at the bottom that it says there is a surplus of £4,043, but then slightly above that, you'll see that transfer from investments is £3,000. And so if you take off the £3,000 plus the interest and dividends, we've had a very slight deficit of £720. So I think all in all, you know, you'll see that the expenses are very pared back. And I think we've done very well to just come to those figures with a difficult year. So does anyone have any questions on those figures?
Linda, I just wanted to say the error you'd got on the postage for the expenditure. Yeah, if you go onto your sheet.
I've altered it now. Julia.
Okay.
Thank you. I've altered it now. I didn't realise that I'd printed it and sent it off. But yeah, but it should be £1,021, which it's a lot of money, but then postage is a lot of money, full stop. And it's, you know, you have to balance things out with, how relative it is and what it means to people. And as I say, I think a lot of people will probably have welcomed that outside link during this pandemic, knowing the age, the demographics of the membership. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll move on then. As John said, I set up online banking. It wasn't easy, but it's been worth all the pain. It is so easy now to do the online banking with the app and with the website, even paying checks in online. It's made it so much easier. There are other improvements that can be made to the system, but I'll work through those with Andrew, I think, probably rather than bore you all with them. So you see we've transferred from the investment account £3,000. So I think a lot of people won't have a lot of knowledge of what this investment account is. So I'd just like to spend 5 minutes talking about it. We originally had a legacy, or the George Eliot Fellowship originally had a legacy of £44,000 in 1996. This is mentioned in page 38, I think it is, of the community of interest. Then we had a surprise legacy, completely out of the blue, from a gentleman we'd never heard of, £41,190 in 2016. £36,000 of this was paid into the original investment account, and the balance on that account was on the 31st of December 2016 was £72,631. we're very, very lucky fellowship to have that cushion. Very lucky. On September 17, we withdrew £18,000 for a set of first editions. So we were lucky of George Eliot novels with inscriptions in them, and we were very lucky to have the money to purchase those items. In October 18, November 18 and January 19, we withdrew 3 separate sums, which came to £9,500. £5,000 of this was to fund the bicentenary celebrations. And the other £4,500 went into the general fund because we didn't know really where we were going. You know, we didn't know whether we'd need more money or whatever. But we felt we did put the money back into the general fund from the bicentenary celebrations. Most events broke even, some made quite good profits. So they were good, they were monies well spent, we all felt, but it didn't go back into the fund. Not everything can. Last year, as you will see in these accounts, which is 18 months later, we drew another £3,000 down. We had no choice but to do that, but to pay the bills for the website and things like that. We had no income coming in. So overall, we've drawn down £12,500 since September 17. And if you take on the original £5,190 that went into the budget, it's been subsidised by £17,700. The dividends are always paid straight into the bank account, which helps pay for events and keeps the costs of events to a reasonable level, we think, and allows the fellowship to pay a reasonable fee to the lecturers and the speakers. So, you know, it does cost a little bit to run this society. The membership really doesn't come anywhere near covering it. Those dividends from the 31st of August 16 to November 2020 came to just shy of £9,000. So you can see that Coifer account has subsidised the fellowship for just under 27,000 since 2016, which again, it's an amount of money, but if we're lucky to have it, and the council does not waste this money, the council spends it wisely. Also out of that fund, as I said, I'm also a trustee for the GPT, the Visitor Centre. We did pledge in kind £10,000 for bookcases, etc. We're lucky enough to have inherited the archives from the Adams archives, as we call it. We were going to sit down last year and all go through it and itemise it. It is itemised, it's not categorised, I think is probably the better way of saying it. So we do know that at some stage we will have to do something with this. We were going to do it last year, but the pandemic kicked in. So what we thought was a suitable thing towards the GPT was to pledge £10,000 for bookcases, which hopefully the visitor centre will still go ahead. But if it doesn't, we will still be able to buy those bookcases to keep this archive in good condition. So the balance on this COIF account, 31st of December 2016, was 72,600. We've drawn down all the dividend, and we still have a balance of 57,352 on the 4th of March this year. Does anyone have any questions? Because I'm quite willing to answer them. Oops, no. Oh,
Linda, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
I've had to move down to Linda's computer,
Right.
because mine just suddenly cut. I don't know what happened. It shouldn't do that. It's a Mac. But, sorry about that. It just suddenly disappeared. I've been trying to get it back, but it said, I think Linda picked up a message that said that Sylvia Everett is now the host. Can you see that anywhere on your computer, Sylvia?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
So has anyone got any questions on the treasurer's report?
Right.
Well, I hope you found it quite informative.
No, thank you, Linda.
How do I change it?
It should say that I'm waiting to enter.
Waiting room, GE Visitor Centre.
Yeah.
So I admit you then?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Ding dong. All right. So you should be in now.
Right, I'll go
You are, John.
and join you.
How did that happen? Host me. It says.
Oh, I've gone lost now. Oh, that's it.
Right.
Very odd.
So what have we got next?
Sorry about that.
Right.
Thank you, Sylvia. That's fine. Can everybody hear me again now? I'm with you all.
Yes.
Can't see you.
Where are you?
Can't see me. Oh.
No.
We have the window that you are in, which says Linda Burton old meeting.
Oh, there you are.
Linda's back
That's
there.
Linda.
Yeah, Linda's there, and I should be back now.
Yes, you're there, bottom right. Yeah.
Yeah, got you.
Right. So.
Oh, there you are.
These damn computers. I've never had that happen before. It just suddenly Linda froze, and then the computer. Anyway, let's not bother about that. Right. So thank you, Linda. And you all saw the suggested arrangements in the notes that I sent of our way of making sure that the Treasurer's report is, or the accounts are audited, and we can present them then as properly audited and submit them to the Charity Commission. Is everybody happy with that? Lovely. Right. Well, the election of officers and trustees comes next. And I presume you have to elect me. Does that? Yeah.
Yes, John, we do.
Yeah.
The chairman has to be proposed and seconded.
Yes, I propose John.
I
And we all
propose
have to
John as
say-
chair.
Yeah, and we all
Yeah.
have to say yes. But then we council members that are standing for re-election, we can all be proposed and seconded on block.
On block.
And yeah,
Right.
so that's Mary, myself, Joy, Elaine, Juliet.
No, Julia isn't a council member. No.
So there's just the four of us then.
Right.
No.
So I'm sorry.
No.
So basically, everyone agrees, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
So moved.
Then you need to talk us through the new
Yes.
people, John.
Okay. Thanks, Joy. Right. Well,
Sorry,
again.
could I interrupt there? Can you
Yes.
hear me? It's Jill.
Yes.
It's all right. For some reason, they lost me. I went to the waiting room and I came back again. Am I on the list
Yeah.
on the council? Because
No.
I think it disappeared.
No.
No.
You haven't been since the last AGM, Jill.
No, that's okay. I
Okay.
didn't think I was. I just wanted to double check.
No.
So sorry to interrupt.
No,
So
that's
I'm
fine.
I'm
That's
definitely
fine.
not part of the trustees and the council anymore.
You're not part of the trustees, but you are a valued member.
Thank you.
Exceedingly.
Thank you.
Right.
No, I just wanted to double check because I don't know why it lost me. Went to the waiting room. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Carry on.
It's all right. I've
Apologies.
had the same problems. Right. So we obviously need some new blood within the fellowship. Not that the old blood is not good, because to be honest, I think what the fellowship achieved during the bicentenary year was quite extraordinary. And it was largely the people who, the 6 people who were involved. Lots of support from others, but it was an amazing year. But anyway, that's the year before last now. Doesn't it seem strange to say that? But we have been seeking some new council members, and I put a few notes there for you, but I think most of you will know, or know by sight anyway, that our proposals is John and Sue Cutts, who have both been very active members, and always very supportive of everything that we do, and I think will bring a lot of fun, as well as willingness to get stuck in and to do the hard work. And they live locally. I've got lots of local contacts, and they will be invaluable additions, I think, to the Fellowship Council. Sue Davis, as I said, actually came in. It's like church ministers going with a view, they're looked over by the church congregation, and the congregation, and they look at the church congregation and decide whether there's a match. Well, Sue Davis came to one of our council meetings last year, sort of earlier last year, and then the lockdown set in. So we didn't really know whether Sue was going to be interested or not. But I contacted her about a fortnight ago, and she said yes, she would love to join us. And Sue's got all sorts of contacts. She works very hard for the Nuneaton Festival of Arts, with whom we have always had a good relationship, but in recent years we've had a much closer one. So I'm sure that will be a really helpful link that Sue can help us maintain with the Festival of Arts. And Rob Everett is one of the vice chairmen at Chilverscote and Heritage Centre. He's a keen reader of George Eliot, and will be really helpful. And he and I will be meeting very frequently anyway when we get back to normal life, because he and I are at the Heritage Centre at least twice a week in the normal run of things. So Rob will be an invaluable help, I'm sure. And Alicia, many of you know because of her artwork, and you've all seen the lovely souvenirs with the design of the George Eliot portrait that Alicia did. And she will be a real breath of fresh air to us as well, full of ideas, full of enthusiasm. And I think she will help to maintain that creative way of looking at George Eliot. And those of you who haven't seen them, because some of you have, but one of Alicia's latest pieces of work is a pair of gates at the front of, or at the back actually, but they tend to be our front gates to the Chilverscote and Heritage Centre, and they're absolutely marvellous. She's a terrific artist, and we're delighted that she feels able to join us. So those are the 5 people who I'm sure are going to enable us to start another era, if you like, and it'll start with Middlemarch. You can't start with a much better book than that, really, can you, as a starting point, as a kicking off point for our future adventures. Middlemarch later this year and next year. So I would propose all 5 of those to be elected en bloc. If any of you are, I'm sure. Thank you, Mary. Mary is happy to second them. So I'm assuming that all are in favour. Is there anybody who objects to any of our proposals? Silence gives assent. Good. Right, thank you very much. We now, for the first time in a long time, have a full complement of on the Fellowship Council. There'll be no stopping us. That really sort of concludes the formal business, unless there is any other business. Nobody has notified me, but that doesn't matter. If any of you have got any points that you would like to raise, please just say, and we'll try and answer them now before we go on to have a bit of a chat for those of you who are interested in what we might do in the future. Any questions arising out of what we've done so far this afternoon?
So just to get it right, John, the 5 members that you've just proposed, they're the new council members.
They're new to the council, but they will join. Actually, we should.
So who has voted for the 4 existing members to?
Well, no, you raise an interesting point, because I don't think we did. I think we ought to.
And then who seconded your Mary's proposal for you as chairman?
I did.
Joy did.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, I'd sort of assumed that we do need to re-elect them. So we've got Joy and Mary and Elaine
and me, Linda.
And Linda.
Yeah.
Right. As council members. Okay. So if we propose, is there a proposal for those 4 to go through?
Sure, I'll propose that.
David. David Pearson. David
Patterson. Right. And have you a seconder? Ooh.
Funny echo.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening.
Look.
Let's. No, you're still there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
The echo's gone.
Okay. So we've got a proposer then for the four existing council members, and we need somebody to second them.
I second it.
I second.
Yeah? Thank you. That was Sue. Right. Okay. So if we can move on now then, is that okay, Juliet? That answered your...
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do is just to spend a little time, because we've spent nearly an hour, actually. It's surprising. But future involvement, these are things that are just ideas mostly at the moment, but I think they're things that we as a fellowship can get involved with. Firstly, the City of Culture. And I keep trying to inquire whenever I meet people or hear of people who are involved with City of Culture, to what extent George Eliot is going to be represented. And
there's a play taking place, isn't there?
There is. There are 1 or 2 things, Alicia. They're not, I don't think they're going to be making the sort of song and dance that we might like, but there are 1 or 2 irons in the fire. There's some work being done on Middlemarch, and I need to find out more about that. But there is definitely something going on about Middlemarch. And there is also, partly linked with City of Culture, is the event which will be it's organised in Aldesley, and it will be dealing with Silas Marner. And I think it will be a sort of community, production of Silas Marner. And I need to follow that up. I'm not quite sure to what extent it's being funded by City of Culture. I think there may be some City of Culture money, but mostly they are also looking for outside support, additional support.
I'll have a look.
There is also something that came through only the other day, and I haven't had time to digest it properly, but there is a suggestion from one of the groups working within the City of Culture that they will set up some sort of reading and study group sessions for Middlemarch. And that might be something that we could contribute to, or offer to contribute to. And that, in fact, what they're hoping to do is to give away, I think, 100 copies of Middlemarch, presumably to people who want to join the reading groups, and also 100 copies of Silas Marner in a similar proposal. What I wondered was, and again, your views would be interesting, we still have copies of Viv's abridged version of Silas Marner, and I wondered whether we could offer 100 copies and also offer something that Mary has been working hard on throughout the pandemic and before. Mary's done, is it about 25 pages now, workbook, isn't it, Mary? On Silas Marner. And I would have thought that any group wanting to set something up, if they were offered copies of the book and, work packs and expertise from fellowship members, they'd bite our hands off. Certainly I would if it was me organising it. So the cost to us would be 100 books, but the inroads it might make for us into the City of Culture events, I think could well repay that investment. What would you think, Mary, about allowing your book of they're lesson notes, really, aren't they, and activities and ideas?
Yes, it's sort of a workbook of tasks that accompany Viv's adaptation. They're all related, chapter by chapter.
Yeah.
And also.
Lost you, Mary.
Unmute. She says she might.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
Oh.
She'll probably go out and come back in.
I think just lip read, that's what she said.
You're right, John. I'm just looking at the City of Culture website. It's called the Aldley Silas. It's taking place at St John's Church of England Academy School grounds.
Right.
It's from the Hart Theatre in association with Coventry City of Culture.
Right.
Between the 28th of July and the 1st of August. And it's funded by the Heritage Lottery Fund, Arts Council, Great Place Funding. Oh no, that is from the Heritage. Higgs Charity, Barry Jackson Trust, and Harry Payne Fund.
Wow, they've done well.
Well, I am finding that the Coventry City of Culture is quite a closed thing at the moment, and it's quite hard to sort of penetrate, which seems quite strange, but
I don't think you're alone in thinking that, Alicia.
I know.
I think Vanessa Oakes would say the same.
Yeah.
That doors are closed and that a lot of the jobs are going to people outside the city.
The fact that you, as a fellowship, you've not even kind of been contacted to say that this is already taking place,
Yeah.
When is planned, are they already preparing? They've got to be, haven't they? So,
yeah.
So, I don't know. Would I be a bit wary of what you donate at the moment? I don't know. I would make more inquiries first.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
And would it be okay to put those on the website as well, electronic copies? We could share them on George Eliot Scholars, or we could put them on the George Eliot Fellowship website, or both.
Do you mean Mary's booklet, Beverly?
Maybe even Viv's adaptation. Viv, would you feel comfortable?
I don't think that's a good idea, because, it's going to reduce her, the sales, isn't it? If it's free.
Well, it's.
Or am I thinking too narrowly?
That's an interest. Yeah, it is a point about. I think it perhaps needs to be discussed. I don't. I have no objection. I feel it belongs to the George Eliot Fellowship anyway, and the money raised from sales would go to the George Eliot Fellowship. But I mean, how many copies will be sold? My feeling is a little bit like Beverly's. You know, the more great to get a wider audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, rather
I
than
just feel the benefits of sharing really.
I know.
Yeah.
What it's all about, but that's the whole.
And I'm thrilled with what Mary's done. I mean, it's like the old, Mary and I must have known each other 25, 30 years, and it's two old English teachers together, and we've sort of done this. We didn't realise it was a collaboration, but Mary, you've been quietly beavering on in the lockdown to produce this.
Yeah, well, it isn't quite finished yet, but it won't take too long. And
yeah,
you know, I think the thing it will encourage people to read the book as well, the adaptation, because it's all geared to every chapter, and any of the work that goes off at a tangent is related to that chapter.
You completely geared it. You know, you could see schools could order it and then, you know, have your workbook to help them through. I heard a wonderful example, you might like this, of one school that was doing, they got the kids to make some games from Silas Marner, where you can't imagine what these kids came up with, ball games, and, you know, Epi in the coal pit was like your go to prison, you know. So, I don't know what it was when, oh gosh, who is it? Dunstey falls in the pit. Curtains. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's the creative potential is.
Or maybe we give away.
Really good question though. Yeah, I'll have to think about that. I can't give you an answer now, but as far as I'm concerned, it belongs to the George Eliot Fellowship. Although the artist is
a workbook, it might sell the book. There's another.
Because let's face it, people still love hard copies.
They do.
In lockdown. The artist still needs royalties, but anyway, that's for the fellowship to decide.
One of the intentions of doing the workbook was to actually promote Viv's adaptation, to sell her book. Yeah.
And if we put that on Scholars and we put links to the book, the workbook on the archive, we're getting about 1,000 visitors a month, unique visitors a month to the archive. So if we have a link to the Scholars and then feature it on the Scholars site, I think we could get a lot of people looking at your workbook, Mary, and then directing sales to the actual adaptation of it.
The workbook is very geared to primary school children.
You could certainly put sort of teasers on the website, so maybe not the whole thing of both of them, but elements where people may want to know more and either get the book or have a downloadable copy.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, we're not going to make those decisions today, but at least it's got the ball rolling, and we can think about it. I think we do need to try and be a bit more forceful, perhaps, in what we say to City of Culture. I think if we announce that we've got all this stuff and we're happy to share it, they might take a bit more notice than if we wait for them to ask us, because chances are they won't.
No, yeah, I agree.
Can I just say, I got the wrong end of the stick probably, but did you say they were thinking of a book group on Middlemarch?
Yes.
Okay. It just seems unbelievable, no joined up thinking, in that didn't Art and Nuneaton, live museum, didn't they, exploring Eliot, didn't they do a Middlemarch group last year? All the work was done last year.
I think they did. They may be building on that. I don't know, Viv.
Let's hope they build on it. It just,
I think they
very I'm not being funny, and I've obviously led lots of reading groups in my life, but it's almost a bit of an unimaginative. Is that all they've come up with? I know Dash are doing their.
No, I think there's more than that to it. I need to examine exactly what it is that they are proposing, because I haven't really looked at it in any detail. But I think that there are skills that we can offer, you know, and there are insights that we can offer to any group that happens to be working in Coventry, in the City of Culture. So
I think it needs to be audience centered to get any.
Yes.
You know, you need to be. We need. What's the word? There's a word for it. You're putting out a bid or something. You're saying something like writing groups, write your own. You know, Dorothea and.
Yeah.
There's, you know, you sort of need. It's audience involvement is everything. I just feel a reading group is sort of been done before, you know.
It has, yeah. I probably misrepresented them by saying reading group. I think there probably is more involved, Viv, but I don't know enough details. But I will look into it and report back to Fellowship Council, because I think it's too good an opportunity to miss. And if we do manage to go ahead with the visitor centre, then it's, you know, it's helping publicise that if we're seen to be working, even if it's next year, because City of Culture now is going to go into next year, of course. So, you know, it gives us a few more opportunities to bite the cherry. I mean, because of the pandemic, we sort of missed out on that work with schools that we had hoped to do on the back of Silas Marner. There are a few straws in the wind. There's one school in Bedworth that has asked me to help them to design a local history section of their curriculum, and the English bit of it will be using Viv's version of Silas Marner, and that's the sort of thing that we had hoped would happen, you know, last year, but of course we couldn't because the schools weren't open. But that's a straw in the wind, and we might be able to build on that, and we might be able to do similar things in Coventry schools. I don't know, but I'm just trying to think ahead, really, of what we can start talking about in our next council meetings. So City of Culture really is one of them. There's another thing that's happening, which is North Warwickshire Tourism, which has always been run by volunteers and still is, but Warwickshire County Council gave some funding to it and bought in a few months of professional time for people to advise them. And one of the things that they're doing is a sort of self-guide tour to George Eliot country. It's sort of been done before, and we've done bits of it before, but this is being funded, and I've advised them on some of the wording for that, and I'm also providing pictures, because money doesn't cover pictures, but we've got stacks within the fellowship, you know, that would be helpful. Then there's a second leaflet that is being produced or being paid for by Waterstones, and we've had an input into that as well. It'll go into Waterstones, I think, all over the country, and it will be sort of offering the idea of an away day in North Warwickshire, or as the literary places to visit in North Warwickshire. And if Waterstones are, you know, having it on display in all their shops, that could be quite useful. The saddest thing of all is that the visitor centre isn't now up and awaiting visitors, where, you know, the focus could be from both those leaflets, the focus could be on, well, start at the visitor centre or finish at the visitor centre and GRIF. But there we are where we are. So that's something else that we can, I can report back on, and some of us can perhaps get more involved in that. Have any of you any other suggestions, just off the top of your heads, or you may have been thinking about it, about ways in which we can bring Middlemarch to a wider audience? Coventry, the City of Culture, I think, are using it because obviously it's supposed to be based on the provincial town of Coventry.
Perhaps I could mention that.
Yes, David.
I'm talking to the National Conference of the Historical Association in May, postponed from a year ago. It's going to be virtual. on Robert Evans, but they've asked me to provide supplementary material for discussion after the talk. And I've suggested that we could look at Eliot. This is purely from a historical point of view, the value of the novels in terms of understanding the history of the period. And I'm going through the various novels. And I've been happy to make that conference paper available to Beverly afterwards. But on this occasion, I could perhaps adapt what I'm doing for, say, a similar Zoom discussion among members, for those who were interested in just looking at it from the Middlemarch point of view, because Middlemarch is so multifaceted that you could run a whole session on how you can learn about the history of the period from a realist novelist like George Eliot. So it would not be reading the book, it wouldn't be a technical discussion of the literary merits, but it would simply be how it can inform us and help us understand the history of the period better. So I'd be happy to adapt the material I do in May on the novels generally to just looking at Middlemarch specifically, if members were interested, but it would need to be emphasised it's a historical approach rather than a literary one.
I think that would be excellent, David, and we all know the quality of your work, and the talks that you have given us are always superb. I think that would be terrific, actually. I really do. Really interesting. Yeah. So thank you, David. That's a yes.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any comments or suggestions? Do you see any art potential in this, Alicia?
I do.
I'd have been surprised if you'd said no. The thing is, might you have time or inclination? You're a busy woman.
Well, I can always find the time, and I always have inclination, that's for sure. During the bicentenary, I was thinking, part of my history of an artist is public art, and some of my very first public art pieces were using the sides of lorries to create enormous travelling artworks. And through the bicentenary, I started to think about where the site for Dairy Crest is positioned in relation to sort of the land that George Eliot would have been, owned or lived. And also part of my practice is always been kind of taking art to non-art audiences. And so how do we then take Middlemarch to a non-art or literary audience? And I was thinking, I also curated an exhibition during the bicentenary where artists made images based on excerpts from George Eliot novels. So combining all of those ideas, I was thinking it would be great to make some enormous travelling artworks that came out of maybe the Dairy Crest depot because of its site on, the Evans' land, and that it might feature either images that were designed from quotes from Middlemarch, or actually use words instead, or a combination of both. I've always seen sort of lorries as travelling billboards or great big advertisements, and I just really like this idea that, something could leave Nuneaton and travel around the country, sharing Middlemarch in a really obvious way, where you could literally take words and put them on the side of the lorry, or you could interpret a phrase or a quote as an image, and then that phrase or quote would go on the back of the lorry. So there's always something that informs it. And those quotes could be chosen by fellowship members, or they could be chosen by, you know, members of the public that have never really experienced Middlemarch, which is always a tick box for Arts Council funding. If you're engaging an audience in a new way to access art in its wider voice, you know, wouldn't it be great if some of those lorry drivers discovered Middlemarch, and through having to, you know, drive Middlemarch around the country on the side of their lorry. So I did start making inquiries into who are the marketing managers, who are the directors of that company, and so on and so forth. And then I got quite involved in doing the portrait. So I never really followed that idea up, but it's always been on the back burner. So that's one idea that I've had. It's quite a big job to do. It's not cheap putting artwork on lorries, but I've been funded by the Arts Council before to do it, and they do like to follow up and continue to support things. So I think it might be worth a proposal if people are interested.
Oh, well, I think so. I think it's a fabulous idea, Alicia. I just love the idea of those great big Pantechnicons driving around with a delicate quote from Middlemarch on the side.
Yeah, and you know, and when a lorry pulls into a delivery depot or a car, and so there's a conversation around what is that picture, or what is that phrase, where did that come from? And then there's some sort of explanation on the back of the lorry. There'll be the website, address, possibly an Instagram page. And so, you know, conversations are developed from this piece of artwork that doesn't stay in the gallery.
No.
The reason why I put work on lorries is so, you know, ordinary folk that don't want to go to galleries might enjoy experiencing some art.
I think that's fabulous. I really do, Alicia.
Yeah, could I just say something?
Yes,
please?
Valerie.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Alicia. I was just thinking about, you know, buses as well. I don't know what the public transport system is like, but you know how people put poetry in the tube or poetry, you know, and the idea of having a quote is great. And in the newsletter, John, you mentioned that Joanne Shattuck mentioned this idea of naming, what is it, the
oh yes, the tunnel,
the tunnel boring machine. Well, I thought how ironic that in Middlemarch there's all that discussion about railways.
Yes.
And you know how ironic that, and there's still a lot of controversy, isn't there, about the HS2?
There is.
There is.
So you know, isn't it? I think, you know, I'm not altogether thrilled that they'd call a boring machine a tunnel boring machine after George Eliot, but I'm sure there's something we could do with that, or get a discussion going. There must be local people who, you know, are not altogether thrilled with the HS2.
There are many people.
Always a member.
There are many people, be assured.
Okay.
The white elephant.
I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned the railways, because it is another, pardon the pun, route through to connect Nuneaton and Coventry as well. Currently working at Nuneaton Station on some forthcoming parts. And I've put words on benches in the station before as a sort of a temporary artistic. It works really well. People really like it. They do start to kill the words off and rearrange them, which is always quite funny as well.
I just say as well.
But you know, wouldn't it be great if there was quotes or images on the train that goes from to Coventry, which actually ends up in Stratford, as well, and then comes back. But that's a relatively new service. It's only been in, I think this is its 3rd year in service. And so there's always been, I'm part of Art Alert as well, and we're based at the station. We've got a gallery there.
Great.
And so there's always been conversations about how do we make all those transport links, literary link, creative link, links with Nuneaton and Coventry through, once we found out about the City of Culture.
We actually had the discussion about the buses, didn't we, Alicia?
We did, yeah.
The number 48 bus goes from Nuneaton past Shepperton Church, up past GEF, and then up Bowshill. And the 48 bus would be an ideal sort of
that's a really good
thing
idea
to put it on.
It could be a transport project rather than just a lorry project. It could be bus, trains and lorries.
I love the idea of a train from Nuneaton with George Eliot quotations on it, finishing up in Stratford. Taking it to the enemy, really, isn't it? That would be marvellous.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm keen to do any and all of those things. You know me. You don't know me, but some of you that do know me, I'm quite keen to do stuff.
Somebody else was wanting to make a point.
Yeah. Hi. It's a very obvious idea, but because many people did get to know and to be interested in George Eliot from the Masterpiece Theatre miniseries years ago, they might be interested in featuring us, and maybe Rufus Sewell could remember how he got his fame with that. Douglas Hodge has done very well since then, Trevin McDowell. I just, I think that obviously we knew Middlemarch before that series, but I think didn't they call it Middlemarch Mania? And well, it might be good for them and it might be good for us.
Yeah.
To encourage them to publicize Middlemarch in this year.
That would be lovely. Was that done in the States, Shoshana?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it was.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We never know who to contact at the BBC, but perhaps initially we ought to contact Andrew Davis and suggest that the BBC, at the very least, during the course of the next 18 months, rerun Andrew Davis's Middlemarch adaptation. Because it was so good, and it would be another way in for people who perhaps don't want to read 700 pages, but will watch 8 hours of TV.
Good idea.
Especially as if I remember correctly, the young woman who plays Dorothea is now quite famous, isn't she? Yeah. She's made quite a career for herself, like Rufus Sewell. So before they were really famous. That's it. Yeah.
And of course, there's Judi Dench as the voice of the narrator at the end.
Oh wow! Yes.
Remember?
Right.
Can I say something?
Yeah, Viv.
I don't know if any of you pick up Twitter, but there was quite a flurry of, quite a conversation on Twitter about 2 weeks ago. It was started by Lucy Mangan. Some of you may know her name, Guardian journalist. I mean, I love her book, Bookworm, all about the children's literature. She's loved. I mean, she's quite often on the TV as well. So she just posted, I think I'm going to read Middlemarch. And of course, so many sort of famous people and her journalist friends just joined in and said, oh, goodness, haven't you really surprised you haven't read it, Lucy? And that was quite and of course I joined in as, from the George Eliot Fellowship. But I'm just saying, don't forget Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to be responsible for that, Viv.
Well, I don't do it very well at all.
Practice makes perfect.
Well, no, so if somebody can take it over, I'm not. Well, I go in and retweet a lot of stuff. I learn a lot about stuff. I mean, I learned about the Dash Arts production of Middlemarch from Twitter, and how Ruth Livesey is their literary consultant and keeps coming up from London as they're preparing it. I think that's going to be that must be City of Cultures funded, is it? Or maybe.
Don't know.
Not sure.
I thought it was definitely in Coventry. I don't know about.
Yeah, I don't know.
Viv, do you do the George Eliot quotes?
Do I do the George Eliot quotes? No, I don't. Is that Bev? No. John and I discussed this, haven't we, John? We think.
Yeah.
We know, and it's something I plan to do more, because some of those quotes are really random, aren't they, John? And what's your theory about it? That it's some mass-produced?
I think it's run by a publishing company, isn't it, Beverly?
It must be. I have tried to direct message and I never get a response.
No.
I mean, I have in the past put quotes on. I've probably lost my mojo with it. I must get back to putting quotes on and keeping it. I do for things like Christmas and that sort of thing. But yeah, talking to you guys has perhaps made me, come on, you can do better.
I've got a tweet deck that I've been working on with a student, and we're ready to put out good George Eliot quotes with illustrations, or nearly ready, but I didn't want to compete with somebody who was already doing it that I might know.
No, we're not.
So that's
we're not the ones, we're not this. Sometimes the quotes they're so plucked out of context. I shudder, you know.
Some are great, some are not.
If they're okay, I retweet them, but no, it's not us.
Okay, well.
That sounds good.
Okay, well, we may get some more.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Please, and yeah.
So I've got students who really are into social media, and we've been talking about this for some time. So we're going to have a year prepared before we start, though.
I love that idea. Quotes,
yeah, I do. That's great.
Yeah. And obviously, you'll always. What's the word? See, I don't even know the lingo. You'd link me in, wouldn't you? You'd link George Eliot love in.
Of course.
Tag.
The word for it. Oh God, what's the
It's tag. It's tag, Viv.
Thank you, John.
Last heard in the playground. Yeah. Oh dear. Well, I think that's been really helpful, actually. And it's given us things to talk about at the next council meeting. And I think probably we're going to have a council meeting via Zoom rather than wait for goodness knows how long we might have to wait. But there's some lovely ideas there, and I'm sure we'll have more of them. And basically, we've got 18 months to work on this, haven't we, really? It's the rest of this year and well into next year for Middlemarch, even to the end of next year. So it could be really good. And we made such an impact, I think, particularly locally in the bicentenary year. And it would be nice to be seen to be doing something similar, making an impact for Middlemarch. Too good an opportunity to miss.
Yeah.
John, before we leave, can I just ask one comment? Make one comment. We haven't actually voted this Andrew Copson onto the council. Is he just doing the accounts voluntarily, or is he being voted onto the council and up to the officer of treasurer? Because
I think
that we haven't actually done that.
Thank you, Linda. We didn't. I think we ought to do that before we go, don't you? I would certainly propose Andrew Copson to be treasurer. If anybody is happy to second that.
I will second it.
Okay. No, thank you, Linda.
Can you just refresh me who proposed and seconded the new members? I've got Joy for yourself, David Patterson and Sue for the existing council members to be re-elected,
Joy proposed yourself, but I haven't got a seconder down, but I know someone did. David. And then the new members were voted in by?
Voted in by John and seconded by Mary.
Yeah, that's right.
John and Mary. Sorry. And so Andrew, we've got John and myself as secretary. Yeah.
Lovely.
That's it. I just wanted to get those down.
Yes, thank you, Linda. Otherwise, we might have found ourselves without a properly elected treasurer, which would not be good. That would not be good. Well, thank you very much, all of you. That's been a really productive session, I think. And I will be sending out more details by email anyway of each of the 4 talks that are coming up. The next one, the first one, is Cathy O'Shaughnessy, who was booked for last year, but because we had to cancel it. And she's very good. And I'm trying, the publishers aren't replying to my emails, which seems rather odd, but I'm trying to get hold of some copies so that we can put them onto our website shop, store page, and people can buy a copy of Cathy's book if they're interested. And then there's another one. I think it's Bev, isn't it? After that, yeah. So it's sort of once a fortnight really until we'll see us through till May, and I hope restore some sense of the fact that we are still around, we're alive, and we're interested and talking and learning. So thanks very much to all of you for giving up your afternoon. I hope you felt that it was worthwhile. I certainly appreciate it. And we'll see you all soon.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Mary.
Thank you.
Bye, Viv.
Bye.
Nice to see you, Viv.
Lovely to
see you. Well, lovely to see you all.
Yeah.
And to see you, Valerie.
Oh,
Really
bless you.
Here, Alicia, but love your hair, darling. Love your hair, Alicia.
Oh, thanks.
Gosh. Oh, lovely to see you all. Take care.
Yeah. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you, Pam.
Bye.